All right, let's discuss this now, and we speak to ANC KwaZulu-Natal Chairperson Siboniso Duma. Mr. Duma, good evening to you, and thank you for your time. Let's begin with the alleged clashes between ANC and IFP supporters in KwaCeza. What do you know about that incident? Have there been ANC members who were injured out of that incident, and what is your understanding of what actually took place?
Good evening to your good self, Baba Mugambi, to your viewers at home. Indeed, it's an honor for us that you are affording us this opportunity. It was a huge day celebrating or commemorating the 110th anniversary of Isilo's Sosotu, which was graced by the presence of our President Matamela, who yesterday presented a very solid case of why we have to celebrate and commemorate the Honorable President of the ANC. Then Isilo went and faced what has been played by the current President of the ANC and the President of the country. Indeed, we had those news which was very bad for us because we condemn the violence taking place in the province of KwaZulu-Natal with the strongest hand. We've just delegated the leadership of the region led by Comrade Mhlongo just to go. Yesterday, there were 10 comrades who were badly injured. They were taken to hospital and some have already been discharged. We are busy with the investigation because we want the law enforcement agents to be thorough on this investigation because our comrades were deadly beaten by the IFP crew who were there, and fortunately enough, there were some police who were around and there were leadership who were still present at that particular function.
The IFP has already issued a statement distancing itself from what you are saying, and that is 10 ANC members or supporters who were injured badly on the back of being beaten by IFP members or supporters. Your reaction to what the IFP is saying, because what they're saying is that this is an act of provocation on your part when you have no proof of what you are saying.
Let me just first give you the contextual framework of the program. In the program, Thulasizwe Buthelezi was not going to be part and parcel of that program. But let me just give you a flashback. There was an event of Amakano at Matobo in almost a month ago, where Mr. Thulasizwe Buthelezi, without being provoked, named the name of Mr. Zwakele Mngwango, who is an activist in terms of politics of the province of KwaZulu. He also led the organization. He said he has done 1, 2, 3, which was bad. In the last sitting of our legislature, when it was opening, the first day when we were to grace the presence of Isilo, Thulasizwe knew, because he understands the convention, he came into legislature, he crossed the path in the place where he wasn't supposed to even walk, which was bizarre for us because he has been in the legislature in the past. In that legislature, he then also spoken badly ill of one of our members, Comrade Phumlile Zulu, and male comrade who were there, just dealt with that situation. So we thought it would be unfair for someone who's been given this assignment not to adhere to the principle and the framework of working together, because where we are seated, I think he is quaint with a serious understanding of power. He does not understand the protocol. I didn't give him the platform yesterday. He just stole the platform. Because we had to be diplomatic, we had to be understanding of that event. We have to relax a bit. Unfortunately, proceeded 5 pages of a speech. We had to stop him because it was not passed. We thought that at least he was going to introduce His Majesty. Then he didn't do that.
I'm going to come to the incident that you are referring to in a moment, Mr. Duma. I just want us to go back to the acts of violence between the ANC and the IFP. These are historical, and we know, based on history, that some 20,000 people were killed as a direct result of those clashes, stemming from way back in 1984 all the way to 1994. Based on your reflections, when last have you heard of ANC-IFP clashes that were recorded by the media and perhaps yourselves that really would have people worried that the IFP-ANC rivalry in KwaZulu-Natal is still a factor? Do you still, can you remember any situation in the recent past of that kind of incident?
In the recent past, even in the by-elections, there have been some shaky ground, but it has been managed by the leadership, because I'm sure you'll understand that the ANC in particular, when there is peace in the process, we thrive because we are the lead of the society at the same time. People understand that we liberated them, so they understand that at all material time, we have a duty to protect, which is why in some instances, in hostels, in the by-election, even if there is a minor incident, we always talk to the leadership of the IFP that this must not come back, because we've got a lot of massacres that took place in the province. And I wouldn't want just to go and zoom into details, but I could just tell you that there was a by-election which took place at Tegwini in Ward 99 probably a year ago. There was an incident which was stopped because the leadership was present, because from time to time that the issue of the environment will not be suitable, then we have to monitor those things. So I wouldn't understand that, because Siboniso yesterday, after the incident, or in fact at the process, he sang the war cries, provoking that these people, we must deal with those people, because it did not even come with him. Instead, he provoked the environment and using those who were there, vulnerable, and unfortunately our people were compromised and were assaulted.
I'm glad that you use two words, Mr. Duma. The management of the situation between the IFP and the ANC and leadership. Those are two words that you have used. There is a concept called situational leadership, and my simple understanding of it is that you adapt your leadership style to each unique situation so that it meets the needs of the environment which holds. And so based on that, your actions yesterday, walking up and grabbing the microphone from the AmaZulu Royal Prime Minister, was that, upon reflection, a kind of action that a leader would conduct himself in?
I'm sure you understand the task of a program director most of the time. From time to time, the program director, if we are part and parcel of the program, will be allocated time. And as much as you understand the collegiality, because there's a serious understanding, there's a serious work ethics between the ANC and the royal household, between government and the royal household. Unfortunately, Mr. Siboniso is not part and parcel of that. I'm sure you must also just go to the flashback that I've just given to you, that he was not part and parcel of the program. He took a program without anyone giving him a space, because I've called Inyosi Officilo, Inyosi Mdleje. He then stood up, went and presented his speech. So I would want us to dwell at that situation. Unfortunately for you, I thought you'll understand that the presentation, the president has already spoken, the first citizen of the country. So as you must understand the process, so the president and Isilo was a keynote address, because Isilo Sasosudu is his great-grandfather. So he had to be given that platform. So no one in the government platform was supposed to grandstand, was supposed to act and as an activist of an organization. He was not supposed to talk about even Provincial Secretary Begim Mtolo, who was not part and parcel. Comrade Mtolo was not in that event. And unfortunately, he wrote something in the government event which was not correct, which is something that had to be dealt with in the process.
Do you recognize Mr. Siboniso Buthelezi as the AmaZulu Royal Prime Minister, as appointed by the King?
Unfortunately, it's not our assignment. And if you understand the convention and the praxis of government, in the constitution of our state, there is no recognition of a prime minister. I just want you to understand that process, that you go read the constitution. In the province of KwaZulu-Natal, even at some point in time develop the KZN constitution just to tailor-make the situation of a king. in our processes, in even our rule book, there is no recognition of a prime minister in the constitution. I would want us, even the country, just to understand those dynamics so that we are always dealing with the proper context of what is currently happening. So in terms of government, there is no recognition of a prime minister. But in terms of the province, yes, there is that position which is not constitutional, because even the royal household is something that is stipulated. There is black and white of even how you allocate the funding, how you deal with royal household, even Abantuan. It is clear, and it has been done in that way, which is why we've been involved since Umhlobombana passed on. So we've been part and parcel of the process.
Can I ask you this simple question, Mr. Duma? If it were Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi who was in that role yesterday, uttering those words, would you have acted in the same fashion?
Just remember, Mangosuthu was also Inkosi, and he's got a royal blood. He understood the protocol. He understood. He had that audacity of understanding. Not in his lifetime, we remember in a government event where he will then lambast, or where he will attack, where without provocation articulate a perspective that is going to cause chaos in the event. So I'm sure you understand, because we believe in this process. We also adhere to the rules. We also respect the traditional, even the cultural hegemony that has been laid over in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. We have managed all those matters, and since the inception, which is why yesterday the ANC were to reflect the history that in 1912, Isilo Sasosu to the king was part and parcel of contributing for the success of that conference, which was in 1912. So we've been working with traditional leadership since that day. It's the same with the clergies, the body of Christ. So there is that rich history between the ANC and the royal household.
And I take to heart your words, Mr. Duma, when you say you respect the tradition. And I'd like for you to just listen carefully to my next question. You're saying you respect the tradition. The role of AmaZulu Prime Minister, yes, it may not be provided for in the South African Constitution, but that event yesterday was an event honoring a late king of the Zulu nation. It was attended by the reigning king of the AmaZulu nation, or AmaZulu king, and he is the one that appointed Thulasizwe Buthelezi as AmaZulu Royal Prime Minister. And so what I want to ask of you is this. Someone will say tomorrow, you actually do not respect the tradition nor event that was being observed yesterday by the very act that you did to pull a microphone from someone that is appointed by the king in front of the president of the nation. And so, again, I go back to the original question. Do you regret your actions yesterday?
The reality, in fact, let us just give you this scenario as well, Babu Mugambi, that the program, yesterday's program was designed, was a collaborative effort between government, the premier's office, and the royal household. So they understood, and the program was passed almost all the tests that it's supposed to be. So what we're doing, we're driving that program. But the reality, I'm sure that the history speaks for itself. I've already given you the analysis. If Thulasizwe, if I did not account for this process, it was going to be easy, because a prime minister is someone who must be respected, is someone who must conduct himself, is someone who must understand the fiduciary duty, that you cannot use that platform for politicking purposes. It has never been done. It must not be allowed, because just imagine the government event having to be turned in that way. Indeed, it's not a nice thing, which is why the program director spoke afterwards that we are sorry to His Majesty that he had to witness this thing. It must not happen. It should have never happened. We had to make the President understand. We craved his indulgence that we are sorry that President, after honoring this gigantic day, this eventful day, this day that is going to be written nicely in history, such things had to happen. I'm sure you also heard that I also had to apologize to the Prim of the province who was lambasted. He was unfortunate for the first time. Instead of ushering the king to the podium, he's saying that I must correct Nomusa Dube for saying that his king was hiding, which is something that has never been done, because I'm sure you know that in this process, in terms of culture, we respect almost everyone. We have to deal with those issues. And in hindsight, that event, how it was supposed to be managed, Thulasizwe was not supposed to hijack the program, because we must also elaborate on that one, because someone who's been designated by the king must understand the throne, must also respect someone who has given him that platform. Yeah. And at the right time, we've already started the process of meeting the king as well.
Did the president have a word with you after that incident, or perhaps after the whole event?
I'm sure you want to blow this thing out of proportion. Yes, today I was working with the president. Yes, we spoke at length about that process. So I'm just going to leave it at there.
Mr. Duma, I'm going to marry two situations or two incidents that have occurred. And I'm going to then sum up the whole thing in a question. So you have the event that happened yesterday. You then had, not so long ago, the ANC Women's League issuing a rebuke against you because of the manner in which you sometimes act around the premier of the province, which some people view as undermining her role. When all is said and done, Mr. Duma, do you think there is reason for you to reflect on your actions as a leader? I don't ask you this out of disrespect. Remember, I'm using the word leader. You are a leader. And I've recently referenced what is called situational leadership. Do you believe that at all times you conduct yourself in a manner that is befitting of a leader?
If you take the portrait and the character analysis of a leader in any stage, in particular the leader in the revolution, it must be someone who must act decisively. It must be someone who must be able to lead at all material time. It must be someone who must understand and embrace diversity. And unfortunately for a leader, there's always an evolving element in a leader. As a leader, we grew up in the ANC Youth League. We grew up in the student politics. I'm sure if I could just do a flashback, the way I used to be when I'm engaging on matters, I'm sure one has grown, and I'm still going to grow in this process. And unfortunately, in the battlefield, you'll have casualties. But let us be responsive on what you are referring to the Premier. I'm sure we're working very close, and there's that collegiality with myself and the Premier. And on many occasions, the Premier has managed to reflect her posture and her position on the matter, which is something that is critical. And I apologize to Women's League comrades at some particular time, because the reality is that when they don't understand the context, in some instances, when it has been polarized, it's better as a leader that you apologize, you offer your apology. History in some instances will absolve you. In some instances, people and comrades will come and say, but in this instance, you were correct, but it was strategic for you. I'm the leader. I'm not the type of a leader who does not apologize. If I've done something wrong, I usually go straight to the point. I've already highlighted what transpired yesterday. I've already spoken to Isilo. I've already spoken to the president. I've already spoken to the Premier yesterday. So I'm saying that I'm reflecting to this organism that leads to a leader, because you are referring to a situation analysis.
Final question to you, sir. The Amabuto yesterday, when that incident occurred, the AmaZulu Prime Minister is understood to be the Commander-in-Chief of Amabuto. The understanding is that they charged to the front, but they had to be asked to stand back, to basically cool off. Can I ask you for just less than a minute to address what people are now fearing could be a resurgence of violence between the ANC and the IFP purely on the act of what happened yesterday, the microphone incident?
The real commander-in-chief of Amabuto, in the process of understanding, is the king and his majesty. So I think that context must be well known and understood. And the honor that is befitting for him is always afforded and accorded by the ANC as an organization. We've already started the process. We should meet with the IFP leadership. I've already highlighted to you that as the ANC, we seem to be more worried, because the violence that has taken effect in the province has contributed immensely negative, people losing life. But in terms of numerical strength, it usually has a bad impact in terms of a low voter turnout. We want to have a peaceful process. Our democracy is celebrating 30th anniversary this year. We want to see a shining example of a developmental state that is being led by the ANC, proceeding what President Ramaphosa is currently doing in changing people's life in the issue of creating the space, the jobs, industrialization, and all those things. So I think going forward, we must manage these contradictions, and we want to work together with almost all the political organizations. We from time to time sign the charter. We from time to time proactively invite all the leadership, even in legislature, who are delegated to lead and who are being deployed in the process. So I think there is that. If you could just check from different leaders, we do offer some strategic movement from time to time, and we do work together in ensuring that we find a peaceful journey towards the 29th of May.
Siboniso Duma, let me thank you very much for your time, sir, leader of the ANC in the KwaZulu-Natal province.